Good morning, everyone. Rise and shine. Thank you for joining our session, which is Accelerating Blockchain Adoption from Media to Banking. Now, all of us are working hard in Web3. We're building businesses, building technology, and asking, when will mass adoption happen? Now, a reminder, for certain technologies, how long it took to reach 50 million users. Phone, it took 75 years. Radio, 38. TV, 13. Internet, 7 years, so we're getting faster. iPod, 3 years. Facebook, 2 years. Twitter, only 9 months. And Pokemon Go only took 19 days to reach 50 million users. So adoption of technology is happening faster. But we have a debate here, as we're all building in a bear market. Do we hunker down? If we build it, they will come and be patient? Or can we design our businesses and products to accelerate mass adoption? So I'm really excited to introduce you to our 2 guests today who are building incredible businesses and thinking about this every day. We have Archie Ravishankar, the founder and CEO of Cogni, the first digital banking platform with integrated digital assets and Web3 services on a single platform. It was founded in 2018, and it's been called a super wallet with lifestyle services. In 2020, Archie was appointed the youngest board member to the Center of Advanced Defense Studies in DC, an organization that works to defeat illicit networks that threaten national security using interconnected sets of information, systems, and data, and it's the world's largest open source intelligence organization. So it's really important work. We also have Paul Kim, the CEO and vice chairman of GripLabs and Yes24, so he's got 2 jobs. GripLabs is a new Ming smart news app. It curates only real issues in media and from different perspectives. It leverages AI, provides context for news, and fosters important community discussion. Yes24 is an internet bookstore that was founded in 1999 with 37% market share. It's huge. It's been called the Amazon of Korea. But they also do music, live events, online advertising, publishing, media, and community. And I'm your moderator, Swan. I used to be the global head of digital marketing at companies like Nike, Revlon, and Estee Lauder. I now work as an advisor in Web3 and create education for an audience of 3.5 million followers. Let's go! Welcome, guys. Now, let's start with a question about your businesses, because I told everyone a little bit about it, but I don't think people understand how unique your approach is. So let's fast forward. 10 years from now, when your company's a decacorn, what does the media write about you in the history books? What makes you different? Archie.
We started as a traditional financial services, and growing up, I always felt that assets has to be democratized. Very select few people have access to, attractive asset classes. And if we could bring those asset classes to an average consumer in a lot more efficient and transparent way, there's so much opportunities there. And especially in the United States, we don't have a super app because all these apps are siloed as one single apps, unlike in Asia. And my biggest belief is that if you have to build a super app ecosystem, it can only happen in Web3. And the monetization and ownership of digital assets, I'm talking about non-financial digital assets, or reward points, or benefits, if that could be democratized and people can have ownership of that independently, that is a big win for this generation. And we would love to play a very small role in accelerating that adoption.
Incredible. You're being modest, but let's see what happens in 10 years. Now, Paul, media is really broken. So based on what you're doing, what will history say about you in 10 years?
Let's say we're aiming to be a Web3 news media platform. And most importantly, it should be decentralized. So I want to probably start by asking you a question that how many of you have heard of the former President Trump's fake news happening in last April? So this AI-generated picture of Trump getting arrested became a stir in like several countries, but no one was able to find out whether that's the fake news or not until someone clarified it. But let's say the 70% of Korean people have consumed one or more fake news in 2020. About 40% of US citizens, they admit that they unwillingly shared any fake news in year 2020. So we need a lot of time. We're spending too much of our thought process dedicating to decode the news that we're watching on the portal or the media is the real news or not at the moment. So the only way that we think that to solve the problem is making a Web3 product that everyone is KYC'd and be able to figure out or trust what the kind of news that we're providing is always right and always real. So in about 10 years, I hope that my company would be considered as one of the first Web3-based community news content provider that were the first to be a first milestone to the credible digital society that Web3, all the Web3 technology is like aiming to be. That's what my wish is. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to reading the headlines about you guys in 10 years. I've done a lot of research about mass adoption, and there's 3 things, more than 3 things, but minimum 3 things that we need to have. Hide the technology, and even if you hide the technology, you have to make it easy to use. But the third thing is you have to solve a problem or fill a need, right? If you look at cloud computing, right? AWS started in 2006. Microsoft and Google didn't even launch their products for 5 years. But even though Amazon had a first mover advantage of 5 years, nothing really happened until in 2008, you had startups trying to disrupt their industries. So when Spotify, Netflix, and Airbnb started using cloud computing, AWS took off. So you need the technology, but you also need to solve a problem. And it's funny, we were out there and someone just asked me, they're like, this panel is interesting, these guys are super accomplished, but banking and media, like, how are these on the same panel? And I say, well, at the end of the day, the end consumers are just people. Yes, we're doing a lot of work to change industries, we're building a lot of tech, but at the end of the day, the same consumer reads news and accesses financial products. So talk to me a little bit about how important it is to understand the consumer and the work that you're building for them.
In the United States, there are a lot of underbanked people, and there are people who are banked reasonably okay, but they don't have access to very unique asset classes. And most of the consumers that we work with, who are our clients, they live hand to mouth, right? They make, they pay the mortgages, they pay the bills, they're left with less cash in their bank account by the end of this month. And for them, getting into Web3, that learning curve is just way too high. They don't have time to go back when they finish their work and learn about Web3, crypto, custodial, non-custodial wallets, stable coins. They don't understand that. And our main goal was, when we provide financial services, banking, which is something that everybody needs, now we got around thinking, how can you make that average consumer reduce the learning curve and make the usability so easy that they can interoperate between banking and Web3 services a lot more easier. So the first thing that we did, there was last year when we closed our Series A, we were thinking, should we go custodial, should we go non-custodial? These were, I would call it, billion-dollar questions because that defined who we are as a company, that defined our ideology as a business and what is our opinion about blockchain. We chose the non-custodial route. So when somebody does a KYC, they get a bank account and a non-custodial wallet within a bank account on a single platform. So that's the first thing that we did. So you don't have to go download, have the learning curve. They already had it with their bank account. The second thing we did was the KYC data. So we have all the KYC information. So when you get a bank account, you have to do AML, PEPs, sanctions, and OFAC to decide who you are as a person. So we took all the KYC data and turned them into a non-transferable NFT into the wallet. So when you apply for a bank account, you have a bank account with all your banking requirements are satisfied. But you also have this additional feature, which is a non-custodial wallet, and your KYC data already moved into the non-custodial wallet as an encrypted NFT. The whole idea was, as we develop that marketplace of dApps coming into the platform, they don't have to do KYC again. The KYC is a big barrier. So for us, every time we think about a functionality, we think about interoperability between the Web 2 aspect, which is the fiat aspect of the traditional banking, but also helping them go into this exciting new space of Web 3 and totally reducing the learning curve as easy as, making it as easy as possible. So these are the steps that we have taken to allow for that interoperability to happen, reduce the learning curve. It is part of their everyday experience. And then slowly we have a product roadmap for the next 1 year, which is, it's not very aggressive. It's very slowly embedded into their existing application. Even the user experience, we didn't change the user experience in a fortnight. The user experience changes very slowly. So people can understand exactly what they're doing, allowing them to play a little bit on the Web3 side themselves. So they are self-motivated to do that because of what's in there. And then slowly adding functionalities to allow for that easeability to happen between both in traditional banking and Web3 services. So that's how we approach this problem. And we take very slow, considerate steps because numbers give people decision fatigue. And we do not want to have decision fatigue with our customers. One of the things with Web3, it grew so fast in 2019. And then regulations came in so hard. So we, as a digital banking platform, our bank accounts are FDIC insured. Anything that we communicate to our consumers have to go through a whole bunch of compliance ecosystem, because you cannot misrepresent your products, services, because they hold their salary in your bank account. So we've been very careful about any functionalities that we launch that people understand exactly what they're getting into. The second thing that we focus on is design, so that design reduces their cognitive overload and allows them to easily use the platform and self-motivates them to learn. YouTube videos are great. The crypto native people use it. People who are in the trading ecosystem learn about it every single day. But if you go to an average consumer, they just find it so complicated. So that is a cohort that we are really going after. And we see an amazing opportunity there.
That makes sense. Hide the tech, make it easy to use, and solve a problem. Now, Paul, you have the same approach for your businesses, right? In both of them.
Yeah, unlike the banking business, this news media business in Korea and some other countries are kind of monopolized with the news portals or the portal sites. But the problem of being that is that the portal is monopolizing all the data sets or the revenues or profit from the users of the system. And the contributors or the content providers do not get any of the information nor the right amount of compensation. So, but the point of Web3 is all about power back to people. So we believe, or we made the concept of a keyword as a public property, which is like in Korean, it's similar as 토지 공개념. So it's keyword 공개념, so that everyone has a chance to advertise what they want to advertise to people by getting the help from the other peers. So let's say you have a problem or beef with some big company that spends millions of dollars on advertising on our platform, and you have a problem with them. You need to talk to the people or let the people know what kind of hardship that you're getting because of this big company. But right now in Korea, if you want to do it, then you have to go to or find some community website and try to tell them what happened, and let's just hope that it will steer the everything, and the major media will pick up and show it. But in our platform, if you can say to the people, the peers, and they understand, and they will lend you the point and be able to buy the keyword that you want to buy. And unlike the other portals, the keywords that the people buying will come to as a result with the same company or the keyword that you want to show. So exact same the users or the consumers for that specific keywords are going to see your hardship. So another one that we're trying to do is that we created a new type of polling using the AI. So we kind of borrowed the name from the generative AI. So we call it generative polling. So the polls or survey, it's historically been top-down. So all the surveys, all the questions are structured in a way. Polling, you already have the given selection. So if you have different kind of opinion, you won't be able to say it, or it won't be able to get caught by whoever's giving you the poll. But we made a system that you can actually put the comment on any selection that you have, and the AI would automatically group those like similar answers and give you the sub-selection under such a selection. So I'll give you an example. So let's say our generative polling system asks you that which political party that do you support, party A or party B. Up until now, like all you can do is either A or B or maybe C, etc. I support this minor party somewhere, or there's no way of you to give like additional like opinion on like what I really want from you. But for using our system, you can choose party A, and I only support you because I don't like B. I only support you because of your recent decision making on some kind of legislative measure. So we create a new system that the bottom-up type of opinionizing is enabled. So we are actually focusing on making a new way of mediums that the people, even the smallest one, would be able to opinionize whole mass or mass public in a way that everybody can have equal power. So that's I think the core essence of the Web3.
It's beautiful how you guys put your ethos of consumer first into your product design, with accessibility, with giving everyone a voice. So consumers, of course, they're the end users, are important. But let's also talk about the industries, because banking and media are massive, and they do not want disruptors. They do not want newcomers. So how important is it for you to think about your place in an industry? Is your industry embracing AI and Web3? And if so, does it make it easier because everyone's doing it? Or are they not embracing it, and now you have a first mover advantage?
Yeah. AI is actually not a good thing in the media industry, because I see some of the reporters here, but you know well that the illustrating business or illustrating industry is now taken over by the AIs. So the Web3 is not embraced in our industry as well, because the media industry in Korea is very conservative as well. We're working with 6 out of top 10 news media companies in Korea, which is the first time in the history, probably. I haven't heard any kind of this thing happened anywhere in the world. And we gave out 5% of share to each of the content provider or news media company to make sure that we are decentralized, even on the shareholder side. And that is actually what we're seeing, that is the initialization of changing things, because not as the portal, but the media company is coming front to start to change the industry itself. Because like I mentioned before, this fake news, AI-generated news, the algorithms, tampering of the comments and the replies in the current system is inevitable. It's inevitable in Web 2.0, but by making the system Web 3, then we believe that there is a mean and measures to control what is happening in the behalf of more people.
I mean, Archie, banking. I mean, these guys are cutting people off who are in crypto and saying, we're not going to bank you, but then they're investing in crypto assets, right? And how many of us have tried to wire transfer something after 5 p.m. on a Friday? So the industry's sort of embracing, maybe not. What's it like to be in such a big industry taking on the big guys?
Well, it's very highly regulated for sure, right? But now we have FedNow already being implemented. So obviously, you have instant transfers in other part of the world, but US has implemented FedNow, so you can make immediate transfers. Regulation is always is the biggest killer in banking innovation. I think banks are the original big data companies in the world. They have an immense amount of data. I always say Google has a lot of data of ambiguity. The banking data is a data of certainty. Because if I take 3 months of your transactional data, I could write an essay about you, a very accurate essay about you. And when you do a KYC, you know exactly where you live, and you know how much you make. You can map out your entire, where you're going to spend your next, your $100 or $1,000 in the next week. It's going to be in restaurants, or you have that data set. Within the Web 2 space, you really cannot monetize that data set in the banking world. You cannot advertise that data set to the consumers. It's illegal to do so. But this data is anonymized and sold to quantitative hedge funds. Yep. And that data is monetized traditionally by the banks, anonymized data. But in the Web 3 world, this data could be owned by the consumer that benefits them. So you don't have to go through an intermediary to reward them with such benefits. So these benefits could go from a brand to the consumer directly, not to a search engine, which is an exciting opportunity if you look at it for a banking ecosystem, that they can provide more value. The whole reason for banking is not only to keep your money safe, but at the same time provide you more value for your buck. That has always been the fundamental thesis. And we genuinely think that at Cogni, that we would be able to provide that service to the consumer, while regulation plays a very hard role in this. So we've been very, very careful since the day we decided to go into Web3. We became the first digital bank in America to launch a non-custodial wallet. And people keep coming and asking to us, how did you manage to do it? It just goes back to the fundamentals of your fund flow and how you disclose to a consumer. Your basic fundamentals have to be right. Right? People ask me, hey, why are you in New York, not in San Francisco? The reason why we decided to go in New York is that we have a better informed team that understands compliance and regulation. The talent pool is quite there in New York City. So we took a lot of constructive approach in hiring the right talent and making sure that we work with our banking partner, the processor, the KYC provider, and keep the regulators informed on what we are doing from day one. And obviously that there are a lot of misconceptions that happen, a lot of less understanding that happens in DC, but a lot of funds have been put, a lot of lobby groups have been set up to educate and help people understand what benefits that Web3 can bring. While this adoption is very slow, it is also being taught across for the entire ecosystem that people can actually benefit, right? If things go wrong, people lose their money. We have seen that happen in 2020. A lot of people lost their crypto assets. They lost their Coachella NFTs as well. And we don't want that to repeat again. So while I think that the regulations play as a blocker, but it is a very good good opposition to overcome, so that helps you tick all the boxes. So as a banking platform, we really try to make sure that not only that we are very compliant, we make sure that the consumers understand that your fiat currencies are FDIC insured, your digital assets on chain are not, and those things are very important to do that. So while you might say that they are a blocker, but they put us sometimes in the right spot. But ignorance amongst certain group is obviously disrupts, it does not help with innovation, and that has to be overcome for this industry to really strive. And also, the regulations across multiple nations is in different levels of development, right? And we live in a much more of an interconnected world. And I think if any country that needs to be in par with the rest of the world will have to up their game to have a much, even playing field. Otherwise, what's really going to happen is you're going to be left behind. And that is something that we should avoid for whichever country, whether it's in the American region or Asia or in Europe, that to come to an understanding of, informed regulation.
What I like about what you both said is that there's now a concept of a new data economy, where in Web 2, the companies who own the servers and the data were selling it. The Web 3 model is consumers own it, whether they're the ones influencing what goes in media, or to your point, Archie, the who owns the data now controls the power. And it's even for brands too, because at Nike, I was so frustrated not being able to track my supply chain. Or when people bought high heat shoes, the special Jordans, they would buy them on StockX or all the resellers. Or even if you want to buy a pair of shoes and you can't go to Nike, you go to Foot Locker or Lotte. Now the problem is Nike doesn't know who that consumer is. But if you chip a shoe and consumers tap it to verify its authentication, Nike can look in a wallet and see 20 pairs of rare Jordans, and they can airdrop saying, "Thanks for being such a fan of Nike. Here's a free pair of custom Jordans, and you can choose whether you want to KYC yourself to Nike to give them access to your life and your data." Now that shoe costs Nike $30. To the consumer, it's worth $300. And that arbitrage used to be made by all the middlemen, and now it's direct to consumer, true direct to consumer.
And you don't have to KYC, you just authenticate through Cogni, and Cogni decrypts it for you in seconds.
Even
and it
better.
saves you $7.
We actually trying to make a blockchain system for not the GripLabs, but the S24 that I'm like CEOing with at the moment. That we're selling the tickets to the concert, and the people are selling it back at 10 times of the price.
Exactly.
And we're trying to employ the blockchain system that the difference between whatever the ticket buyers that they have to sell the ticket and the half of the difference, like whatever the amount of difference will go back to the artist, or where the charity organization where the artist kind of directed it to go. So in that case, that those buyers won't be able to get those kind of not good profit out of it.
Yep. Secondary markets and how consumers behave with brands is about to be completely disrupted. Now, we're rounding up on time, so I'm going to ask you guys for one piece of advice you would give the audience in thinking about mass adoption of Web3. Because Malcolm Gladwell said that the success of any social epidemic, which is spreading something virally, is dependent on people with a rare set of social gifts. Salespeople, connectors, people who know a lot of people, and mavens, which is people who share their knowledge willingly with others. How do you think about this or any other piece of advice that you would give the audience in thinking about accelerating mass adoption?
Yeah, so, Cogni does both traditional banking and Web3 services, and mass adoption to these both segments is very, very different, as you would know. The first segment looks at, social media, ads, and very specific benefits. On the Web3 side, it's always people sharing that knowledge for free. Their friends, their family. Hey, do you know how to, get yourself a wallet? Do you know what is Ethereum? Do you know what is Bitcoin? So that's how people get educated. So from our side, at least from Cogni, that we have, while we have traditional marketing methods, we are a big believer of people openly sharing that idea and their, what is their opinion of that information.
Paul, last thoughts.
I think that Koreans are like the fastest or the smartest people when it comes to the mass adoption. About 10, 15 years ago, I think I remember the Facebook guys were saying that, oh, our service kind of copied the Cyworld of your Korea from 90s, but we interpreted it in different ways. So I believe this Web3 community service, if it starts and if it become like what de facto of everywhere, it should start from Korea, because like Korean people have like genuine interest in what other Koreans are thinking or how they're doing, and we're kind of thought it as the people who kind of moves in a group that in order to belong in the group, like imaginary group that Korean people think us. So our generative polling system would be able to give the people the knowledge of what other people are thinking, or the news or the fake news, how they comment or replies. If they want to see how real people are thinking, that they would come and check our news service. So I believe that this mass adoption case of like the mass adoption, I think we have a good chance of being the first one to be the biggest community in the world.
One last thought. If anyone pushes back on Web3, in the US, I remind people, remember when you said you would never get an iPhone because you could not live without the BlackBerry's buttons? Or when you would never buy anything on the internet because if we took an Uber or a Kakao taxi, you not only bought that online, you got in a stranger's car. So Web3 is not as far as we think, and a huge round of applause to these gentlemen that are building businesses that solve tomorrow's problems.